All right, here we are. I am gone today at a math counts competition, and so Mrs. Robinson's going to be here with you to talk about the problem solving process. Now, because of our incredible weather, and I haven't seen you in over a week, um, we've kind of got to get caught up here. So, probably one of the last times you guys were with me is you were doing the aluminum boats experiment, and you were trying to build a boat and see how many pennies you could possibly get to float and try to make it as many pennies as possible. Okay. And so as we went through that process, you kind of informally used this 4-step problem solving process. We worked at defining a problem. You kind of created and prepared your plan. You tried it, and then you got the opportunity to go back, look at what you were doing, and try to make it better. This process, which we're going to refer to a lot in computer science this semester, is called the problem solving process. And very similar parts of it you will use in science and in a lot of other projects as you go along. So let's, first of all, I just want you to take a look at kind of these first 4 steps, what they mean, and how you're going to put this into practice today. Okay, so the first one is defining it. Every good computer programmer, when they're working on a large project, isn't just going to dive in and just start trying to code something. They're going to actually make sure they understand, what are we trying to do here? What is our problem? What kind of constraints do we have? And what is our end goal? How do we know that what we're making is going to work right? So you kind of focus in on these 3 questions. When you guys were working on your aluminum boats, you knew what you were trying to do. You were trying to get as many pennies as possible to float on this tiny little piece of tinfoil. Okay. You had some limits. A constraint means a limit. And so you only had this little 5-inch by 5-inch square. So you had to work within that to try to see what you could, how you could design it and what you could do to try to make as many pennies as possible float. Success would be, oh, hey, we've got a lot of pennies here and our boat's floating. Then, once you understand what you have to do, then you actually have to start brainstorming, all right, how should we build this thing? Some of you mentioned that you actually have done this type of project or experiment before in science class, so you had some experience you could add in there. What types of things might work, what might not work? Some of you tried to make it a little smaller, but kind of fold up the sides a little higher versus trying to make it super flat with very small edges and try to spread out the surface area. So you made your plan, you constructed your boat, and then you tried it. You saw what happened, you calculated how many pennies you had in there, and then you got this part right here, this reflect. We don't often do this enough in school. Programmers do this all the time. And when you're out working in the real world, the same thing's going to happen. You go back and you say, all right, what happened? Did our experiment measure up to what our goal was? How did our results compare? What can we do better? What do we want to change or revise to see if we can make it work better this next time? Did you discover something else that you didn't foresee happening that was like a total bomb or totally didn't work? Address all those and then go back and try it again. That actually is an incredibly important part of the process when you are actually doing things for real, because you don't know what the answer is when you are starting to work on something. So sometimes you try it, say, nope, that didn't work. Let's tweak it a little bit. Try this. That made a little better. And you just kind of keep going through this process to see what you can to make it the best possible experience or the best possible project. So here's what I need you to do. I need you to get out something to write with, preferably a pencil. You are going to get a worksheet and it's going to be face down. All I'm going to tell you is that it's a puzzle. All right. And then don't turn it over until Mrs. Robinson says go. And you're going to have a couple of minutes, just about 2 minutes, to go ahead and test it and see how far you can get. Today, I'm going to say just stay in your seats. You can certainly talk with and work with the people right next to you and see how many of these words you can find in the word search as soon as Mrs. Robinson says go. So pause the video, get a chance to get the worksheets distributed, and when Mrs. Robinson says go, go. All right. Well, how did it go? There were 8 words up there. Were you able to find them all? Do this for me. Will you take your worksheet and head toward the back on this last page? They've got 3 things here with the problem-solving process. Get to this spot and grab your pencil. Now, did we really have to define much on a word search with what you needed to do? You kind of know what you actually have to do here. All right. So we're going to say for defining, you're just trying to find the words. In this case, there were actually 8 of them specifically that they gave you. For prepare, did you have any time to prepare? I just instructed you, or Mrs. Robinson just instructed you to flip your paper over and go. Now, maybe some of you talked to each other and came up with some kind of strategy first, but I'm guessing you probably didn't prepare. You just had a timeline and you were like, go. When you tried it, what kind of strategies did you use? Pause the video for a second and talk to your partners or talk as a full class about what kind of strategies you used. As far as what you did here, some people maybe look at the first letter. Some people might look for combinations of letters and so on. Depending on how you are, or some people might be really good at doing word finds, some people aren't. So if you had to do this again, what might you do differently to make finding the words faster? So I want you to take a moment here, pause the video, add something in there you think you would do differently the second time to make your process more efficient and able to find them all. Okay, now what I want you to do is take about 4 to 5 minutes working with the people next to you and take a look at this next puzzle called birthday guests. Birthday guests is you're having a party and you're having it at a restaurant and you have 15 guests that are coming. The restaurant you're going to has these 3 tables. Okay, each table can seat 5 people. There's no moving of the chairs or anything. They're just 5 spots. Okay. Below is some information you can find about the people attending. And you'll notice creatively that they've named these people with each letter of the alphabet, starting with A and going all the way down to O. So the nice part is, as we start to seat people and figure out a configuration at these tables that's going to work, you can just use the first letter. Now, here's your challenge. You've got some people that are close friends. For example, Aisha and Damien are good friends. So your goal is to try to put them together at the same table. However, we have some people that are not getting along. Hard to imagine, right? Aisha and Gennaro aren't getting along. So you've got to make sure that Aisha and Gennaro, first of all, are not at the same table. And then let's not put like Aisha here and Gennaro here because that's a little too close. We want to try to keep them apart far enough so that we're kind of avoiding any possible conflict. So your job is to looking at these combinations, work with the people next to you, and see if you can figure out a way to get these 15 people all situated so that you are allowing these friends to sit by each other, but these people definitely to be apart. There's probably more than one combination that works. So go ahead and get started. You can pause the video, and I would say, I don't know, maybe take 5 minutes or so and see if you at your table or the people sitting right next to you, see if you can figure out a combination that works. All right, once you've got that done, then go ahead and fill out what were the steps in the problem solving process and how did you use it to solve this birthday guest puzzle or scenario. Take a few moments and fill those out on this chart. Pause the video. All right, now your assignment for the last part is you and your friends are going to plan a trip and you've got the entire school day to travel, all right, but only the school day. You need to be back at school by the end of the trip, but otherwise, how you plan your trip and what you do is up to you. Plan the best trip that you can. So, I wrote down this time constraint here, all right? Because we get to school at 7:55 and depending on how you're going to travel, it might be getting on buses depending on how many people you're taking or where you're going. And then we have to be back at school before the end of the school day. So we'll say till 2:30. I want you now to and this part, I will let you work with someone you choose to. Okay, so if you want, you can get up and move around, listen to Mrs. Robinson for what that will be. But I want you to try to design and plan some sort of like field trip or adventure just during the school day. And before you even start this part, talk to your uh, partners that you're going to work with, or if you want to work with alone. What is the most important thing that you want to accomplish on this day? Do you care about what you see? How are you going to get there? Do you need to think about lunch? How long is it going to take? How much is it going to cost? So write down the goals. They've left some extras there on what you think would make a good plan. Then fill this part of your table out. Then you're going to have to start planning your trip and how you're going to get there. Do you have some stops along the way, or are you just going to one location and coming back? By the way, you're not going to be able to fly to California and come back. That's just not going to be practical. So I would say plan something that's doable on a car trip within a school day. Use Google. You'll be going and getting your Chromebooks in a second and kind of go to town from here. Alrighty. So Mrs. Robinson will be able to explain any of the rest of it to you and go ahead and start on your adventure and planning your trip. When you get through that, what I'm saying is you probably, you don't have to worry so much about this page because we're not going to go through and do that finalization. But I do want you, once you get through planning all the stages, then go ahead and fill out this last part and complete the back page. Alrighty? Good luck and have fun planning your adventure.